The business just grew from there. So it's come to be what it is today. But I did not have a master plan, nor did I think like I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I want to be a founder. I love those things now. It's very connected to who I am and my inherent strengths, but I had to discover them along the way.
We've had those conversations and talked about the sort of two styles of business owners, the people who always knew they were going to run a business and the people who sort of find themselves in the place of running a business.
So Meg Carpenter is the CEO and co-founder of Ficomm Partners, which is an award-winning growth marketing firm that works specifically with financial advisors, advisory firms, and wealth management platforms at every stage of growth. She's a mom, she's a blogger, she's a podcaster, she does a lot of things. Hello, welcome back.
Hi, good to see you as always.
Great to see you too, Patna. Welcome back, everybody, to Living Richly with Curo, episode number 46. My name is Anne McCabe. I am the CEO and a partner here at Curo Private Wealth, and I'm joined, as always, by my lovely partner, Atrisa.
Hello, I am Atrisa Roberts, COO and partner at Curo. Thanks for joining us again.
Thank you for joining us for another week of fun. Our goal here on the podcast, as well as at Curo, is to inform, inspire, entertain you on this life journey, and specifically some of your financial and perhaps entrepreneurial journeys, which we will get in more today with our special guest. We are super excited for the guest that we have today. Atrisa and I both adore this woman. So we are very, very excited and honored that she is going to spend some time with us. Her name is Meg Carpenter. So we will welcome her officially here on the podcast in a couple of minutes. But before we do that, we always love doing an A-team catch-up. So what is new, Atrisa?
Well, before I share anything about me, I have got to give a special birthday shout out to my partner, Anne McCabe, who is celebrating a birthday in March, and it's a month-long celebration around here. So the entire month of March is your birthday.
This is true.
Just want to wish you a very happy birthday. Every new year is a new opportunity to get better, and you're aging so gracefully and beautifully. And I love to be sharing this journey with you. So happy birthday, my dear.
Thank you, darling. Very much appreciated. We're trying to age around here like fine wines. So
yes. And not milk.
Definitely not milk. No, we're going with the fine red wine. Yes. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I had a lovely birthday weekend. As I was sharing with you, Wally and I went to an awesome restaurant that I highly recommend everybody checks out in DC called Oyster. The story of the oysters. So it is mainly a vegetarian / vegan sort of restaurant. It has, I think, one Michelin star, definitely at least one Michelin star. But the oysters are, if you do the vegetarian path prefix menu, you can select to get one oyster, I think in like course 3 or 4. So Wally went with the oyster. For those of you who listen to us regularly, you know I eat a plant-based diet, vegan diet. So I did not enjoy the oyster, but the other oyster is a lot of their dishes are made from mushrooms, and specifically oyster mushrooms. So now you know the reason why it's called oyster, but so good. It had been on my list, on my radar for a couple of years now, and I let him choose the restaurant and he knocked it out of the park.
Oh,
so
fantastic.
Highly recommend.
Yeah, I can't wait to try it. I've heard of it. I've never been. But, DC is doing vegetarian, vegan restaurants really well these days. So excited to try it.
Yeah, highly recommend. One of my favorite meals we've had out in a while. And we've been to some
and you've been to some heavy hitters in the last couple months. So that's a lot.
We have. It was really fun. And speaking of food, my older son turned 13 yesterday, and we went to the Palm for him, which was it was his first time at like a nice steakhouse, and he went all out. Both my boys were talking on and on all night long about how amazing the food was. Like, I don't know if I should be offended or...
No, I think you should be worried. You're
Yeah.
exposing them, you're improving their taste very early on in life. The restaurant budget
Yes.
is gonna have to get bigger.
Yes, I know. That was another one of my concerns, but we're foodie people, what can we say?
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it was
that's
fun, but happy
nice.
13th birthday to what are we calling him? Goalie. We're calling him Goalie.
Yeah, he's goalie. Happy
He's
happy
Goalie.
birthday, goalie.
Yeah, my baby. My baby's a teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how about you? What's new and exciting in your world?
Yeah, nothing much really new and exciting other than longer days. The impact of leaving the office and there still being sunlight is changing my life in dramatic ways.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's been such a cold, windy, gloomy winter, and I felt like it's gone on and on and on. So just having sunshine, we had really beautiful weather this past weekend, and longer days is nice. And I just feel my mood shifting just in general. So I'm
Yeah.
grateful for that. That's like the biggest news in my life right now.
Yeah, exactly. And you're getting out for some golf soon, right? Getting back on the
Yeah.
course?
Yep, the
Yeah.
season is starting up. I actually have an event with my queens on the green. Tomorrow, we're going to the PGA Superstore to, do some simulation swings and testing out some putts. And then I have my first lesson starting in April. So that's exciting. And the weather's
Yeah.
getting perfect for it. So, yep, time to get going again. But unfortunately, I haven't swung a golf club, at least not outside of a simulator since, end of last summer. So, I'm
Yeah.
a little nervous about getting the rust out, but I'm excited.
Apparently it's like riding a bike. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
maybe
even
that's what they say
think
for the experienced
it,
golfers.
do they? I didn't even know if that was actually a thing for golf. I totally just made that up, but we'll go with
No.
it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you've been doing it long enough, you just create that sort of rhythm in your body where you just
Mhm.
know. I don't know that I'm there yet. Every time I go too long without it, I feel like I'm starting all over again, like I'm learning all
Mm.
over again, which is usually why I like to start the season with a lesson,
Yeah,
right?
like
So,
reminders of the
yeah.
things. Yeah, definitely. Well,
Yep,
that's exciting.
absolutely. Yeah.
Good. I know our regular listeners always appreciate Atrisa's golf updates. So,
Yeah, and it's gonna be a busy season. Like I've already signed up to volunteer at a golf tournament because that's one of the things,
mm,
golfers say you should do, volunteer at like a major golf tournament. So there's one in our area in, I think that's June. So I've signed up as a volunteer for that. So it's gonna be a lot happening, tournaments
yeah,
and, playing pretty frequently. So I'm excited. Again, I
that's
probably
amazing.
should have chosen a cheaper hobby, but
Hmm.
it is what it is.
It's okay. It's all right. It brings you joy. That's what is
It
important. It
does.
gets you outside,
And
gets
that's
you
what I was
some
gonna say, it
vitamin
gets me
D.
outside, it gets me sun. You spend all day in front of a computer screen and in an office. It's nice to have that break where you're just outdoors sometimes. So,
Yeah, exactly. I think it's great. I think it's great.
thanks. I'm excited.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, before we welcome Meg on, I am going to read a little bit of her official bio. We always like to keep the official bios kind of short because we like to maximize the time that we get to talk with our guests. But we did want to let you know if you have not had the pleasure of meeting Meg, which most of you probably haven't, and unless you're in our industry. But she is just truly a joy, and we're really excited to have her on. So, Meg Carpenter is the CEO and co founder of Ficomm Partners, which is an award winning growth marketing firm that works specifically with financial advisors, advisory firms, and wealth management platforms at every stage of growth. So, some startups, some very established firms. She was included in Investment News 40 Under 40 and has been in the industry helping firms for over 20 years. She began her career at John Hancock Financial Network before launching her marketing consulting firm for financial advisors at the age of 29. She's a mom, she's a blogger, she's a podcaster, she does a lot of things. So we will dig in a little bit more to why she chose financial services. But without further ado, let's welcome Meg.
Hi, Anne. Hi, Atricia. How are you?
Hi. Doing well. How are you?
Fabulous. Thank you so much for this invitation.
Of course. Thanks
Yes.
for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you. So before we let you in, I did a formal bio. on you. So the folks who haven't had the opportunity to meet you now know a little bit about your background, but we always like to minimize the official bio part and maximize the actual conversation with you. So
Yes, I hope you truncated it greatly.
we did.
Okay,
did.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
sometimes people at events like read the whole thing and I'm just sitting there like, "Oh dear, I need to just like I need to truncate it for people because it's ridiculous."
Yeah, you're like, here are the 3 bullet points I want you
Yeah.
to highlight. Yes,
Right.
Yes. All that
exactly.
matters is that I've been in this industry for a long time and
Yeah.
I'm happy with what I do.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, that is a great segue into our first question for you, which is anytime we have an entrepreneur on the podcast, we love to hear a little bit about like why. Like, why did you become an entrepreneur? Tell us a little bit about your journey and why specifically financial services.
My entrepreneurial journey, I think, is different than some might expect in the sense that I didn't have this idea to build a business called Ficomm Partners and to turn it into the business that it is today. I think of myself as a bit more of an accidental entrepreneur. It was a combination of things when I was 29 years old that started with I was going through this really random health crisis and it was unexpected. And I was just remember sort of being in this moment and thinking like, there's a lot of areas of my life where I feel like I'm not living up to my full potential. Like now that I'm sort of reflecting on where I am and how I've gotten here, because when you're 29 and you haven't had to experience anything like that before, it's a big like reflection process. And so one of the areas where I felt like I wasn't living up to my full potential was professionally. And so I had this desire to really think about where can I add the most value and what would be fulfilling for me. So that was part of it. Another part of it was that I had great advocates. I had a few people that I worked with actually in your area. I worked in Tyson's Corner, and there were 2 advisors that I worked with who said, you know what, we'd hire you as a consultant. Like if you decided to go and leave here and do your own thing, we would totally hire you. And so that gave me a really good degree of confidence that I can try something different. I've sort of got some people who want to support me. And so let's dive into that. And then I also had a really supportive partner in my husband who was like, you do whatever you want to do. Don't work, like whatever, like I'm here to support you. So I had a lot going for me in that reflection process. So I've always worked in financial services. To your question about why financial services, I've worked in this industry, sort of our sector of financial services in the independent wealth management space since I was 20 years old. I got a marketing internship that the only reason I took the job is because it was paid, but I was working alongside financial advisors and I fell in love with financial advisors. So I've worked with advisors my whole career. So when I decided to leave my place of full-time employment and sort of go out as a consultant, it was a no-brainer to me to continue working in the industry that I loved. And the business just grew from there. So it's come to be what it is today, but I did not have a master plan, nor did I think like I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I want to be a founder. I love those things now. It's very connected to who I am and my inherent strengths, but I had to discover them along the way. I didn't have that foresight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe digging in a little bit to what were some of the challenges that you faced early on? It sounds like you had a supportive partner, which is very important. And you also had like built-in clients, which is fantastic. When you're about to start a business, it's lovely to have clients ready to go. But what were some of the challenges or some of the things that surprised you about starting a firm?
It's interesting because a lot of my challenges came after the initial success. So
Mm,
when I started, I was very fortunate. Like I said, I had those advocates. I immediately had 2 clients. I left my full-time job on a Friday, and on Monday, I had these clients who were paying me, and I had contracts. And so that part was really exciting. And it was more about finding my way and understanding my value and understanding, what can I do that people will pay me for and what does that look like? And then that sort of snowballed into making connections. And then ultimately I met my former business partner who had started Ficomm 8 months after I started going out on my own as a consultant. And we were introduced by a client. We ended up merging our two businesses 2 years later. And it was really this snowball effect where a lot of things were working in our favor. The market needed what we had to offer. We were filling a gap that no one had really filled. Marketing in the wealth management space at that time, back in 2012, was just a really under-leveraged sort of business discipline. And so we gained a lot of quick respect, built a pretty good brand reputation, and had a lot of quick wins. But it was once we've hired our first employee that's when the challenges sort of set in, because I had never hired an employee before. I had never built a business before. I didn't know the importance of having a business strategy. I didn't understand how to put together an accountability structure within an organization to make hiring decisions. I mean, so many things that fast forward now almost 13 years that I've learned just through experience. That was when the challenges set in, because it's like the blind leading the blind. And we were doing the best that we could in the moment. And looking back, we made the decisions that felt right for the business in that time. But it took me a long time to really understand what it means to be a business owner and what type of leadership and skill sets and capabilities are required to succeed in that seat. And so there was a ton of challenges. I mean, hiring the wrong people, increasing overhead unnecessarily, not knowing how to build a profitable service model. Like, a lot of challenges happened in those days, but it wasn't immediate. It was sort of like after we got to a certain size and scale.
Yeah, we actually had other entrepreneurs on our podcast before, and we've had those conversations and talked about the sort of two styles of business owners: the people who always knew they were going to run a business, and the people who sort of find themselves in the place of running a business. And a piece of advice that we've had a previous guest offer is just to think about all the foundational pieces at the very beginning, right? Imagine yourself and try to, as much as you can, create that scale and foundation, because like you said, sometimes things snowball very quickly. But I think any business owner will tell you there's going to be things you can never solve for, right? Things you can never expect.
Right. You just can't anticipate
Yeah.
everything. And so you can do what you can do in the beginning to set, like you said, Atricia, like that strong foundation and have a strategic framework, which is sort of, when I think of strategy, I think of an integrated sort of overarching concept of how you're going to reach a specific set of objectives. And there was just so many things that I didn't know. And I think that it doesn't matter. Like, if I had gone to workshops or sought education, or like there's still a lot of it that you have to learn on your own. And you just have to go through the experience, and you have to have those really painful, hard moments. And you have to be willing to work through them, because those are the best learning opportunities. So I think it's, yes, like, set the foundation as best you can, but also recognize that you just have to, like, the greatest way to move through an obstacle is to move through it, not try to go around it, and like allow yourself to have those experiences and not place any judgment on yourself for whatever the outcomes are, because that's where it gets tricky, is if you're battling yourself mentally, like, don't add that additional burden. There's many other burdens that you're going to have that you'll carry as an entrepreneur, and it doesn't need to be that you're battling yourself.
Right. No, really good advice. And you mentioned, the people hiring, which is probably my least favorite part of practice management, is a challenge. And we've heard you talk about, high employee turnover at your business in the past. Do you have any thoughts about maybe what was going on in the business? And then what steps did you take to try to turn that around?
How long do we have? I have made, I mean, people are, I think, the most challenging part of being a business owner and the most rewarding. I think it's both sides. I've gone through so many iterations of the business here at Ficomm where I feel like I'm continuing to learn lessons. So I think originally, like I talked about, we were making first hires without really understanding what we needed the roles to be and how that supported the business. And so you make hires that you think are the right hires, but then a year later, you realize that you didn't really have that structural understanding of what the role was and what the role needed to be. And so then you've got some turnover from that. We also did experience high turnover from having a culture that I just wasn't proud of. I mentioned my former business partner. So he and I had an amazing run together. I still consider him a friend. I have a really high degree of respect for, I love him. And it got to a point in the business where we had a misalignment in vision. he wanted to build one business and I wanted to build another business, and the vision was misaligned, and unintentionally in that misalignment of vision, the culture just took a nosedive.
Mhm.
And that was another reason that we had high employee turnover, is just the culture wasn't a place that I was proud to be. And so why would I expect anyone else to be proud to be there? So that was sort of another moment of high turnover. So I would say like what I've always taken away is like how did I learn from and improve? So I learned early on that I needed to have a really good sense of the concept of an accountability chart in the business, so that I understood where is the business today, but more importantly, where is the business going and what are the rules that I need to support that. So like sort of solve for that. We continue using an accountability chart in our business. Culture, learned that that is the number one important thing to focus on from a people perspective, people morale, satisfaction, fulfillment. So learn that, focus really deeply on culture. And then I think this last wave of what we're experiencing is in building a very specific client experience for our ideal client persona. We've gotten really clear on the types of professionals that are required to fulfill that client experience. And so we're in the process again of going through. Now we've got the benefit of, people aren't leaving because they're dissatisfied, but we're making the decision together to make transitions because we're in a place now where we want to be able to set everyone up for success. And if we can't set people up for success in our current business, we want to get them to a place where they can be set up for success. So we're experiencing turnover now, but in a very positive and productive way, because it's what's best for us and it's what's best for them. And so we're learning through that as well. So I think that, there's a little bit of, in the beginning, it really kept me up at night. I would just think like, so there's something wrong with me. Our employee retention is not where I want it to be. It must be me. I must be doing something wrong. I must not know, like I'm failing. Right. And now I recognize like I have a lot of conviction and confidence in our business. We have a sound business strategy. It's working. The growth is there. If we have people turnover today and it's on our terms, I no longer let that keep me up at night, because I'm coming from a position of power and I'm getting people set up for success in their own ways. And so that's something that I'm proud of, but it's taken me a while, because when it was because of my lack of understanding of accountability, and then when it was because of culture, I mean, that just killed me. It absolutely ate me up. That's tough for me in particular. I'm not sure everyone feels the same way, but I'm a people first person. Relationships are really big for me. I care very much about every single person on my team. And so that was hard. That was a very stressful, long period of time. And today it just feels different, which is a nice feeling.
Yeah, it's almost like proactive turnover to make sure that everybody is in alignment. And it reminds me of two things. One, what got you here won't get you there.
Right.
Have you? Yeah,
Right.
exactly that. Like the people, the strategy, the marketing, all the things that you did to get your business to where it is now are not necessarily the same things that are going to work to get you to the next leg up. But also, I don't know if you're familiar with Netflix's kind of way of assessing employees, but it reminds me
Yeah.
a lot of what you're.
No rules, rules, and the culture of
Yeah.
reinvention. I've read that book. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And like asking every leader, is everybody on your team or your direct reports, knowing what you know now about them, would you rehire them? And then second question is, if they came to you and said that they had found another opportunity, would you try to do everything you possibly could to keep them? And if the answer is no, then perhaps they're not the right fit anymore.
Right. And I think that's absolutely right. And I learned this simple quadrant in I'm a part of Entrepreneurs organization, which has been like massively transformational for my life, both personally and professionally. And one of the things that I learned through EO at a workshop was they just drew a simple quadrant with like A, B, C, D, and it's cultural fit and competency fit sort of are, the A players are high culture fit, high competency fit. The B players are high culture fit, low competency fit. And then you sort of work your way around to the D players are low culture fit, low competency fit, right? Or actually, the D players are low culture fit, high competency fit, and those ones are really dangerous. But the whole takeaway that I took from this session was most businesses spend their time trying to elevate the C players and the B players, and they forget to pay attention to the A players. And you have to pay attention to the A players in your business. So that was a learning lesson for me of like, I really have spent time trying to think like, well, I can coach them up. Like they're so awesome. And they want to be here. And so we can coach them up. But the reality is that detracts from the people who are high culture fit, high competency fit. And so that was another shift for me, like same as those questions from Netflix of like, it's basic and intuitive when you understand the concept. But when people are involved, it's really hard to understand the concept. But the better that I've become at people leadership and people recruitment and people management, it's some of those just fundamental understandings of you want people who are flying in their zone of excellence. And if they're not, then you should get them to a place where they can.
Yeah, exactly. You're doing them a favor by
Yeah.
letting them jump out of the nest into a different
Yes.
opportunity. Yes.
Yes.
All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit, Meg, with you. So you had 6 high-risk pregnancies, but
Mhm.
we're happy to say that you're blessed with 3 wonderful, healthy children. So they are
Yes.
currently 8, 5, and 3, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're also busy with boards and school PTA, which God bless you. I could not even imagine that you added that to your list. So how do you balance being clearly a very present and hands-on mom with also running a successful business?
I don't believe in balance. I mean, I think that's really the core of it. I don't think, for me, balance doesn't exist because my life is not balanced on any given day. People need different things, and my priorities shift based on what I need for myself and what other people need from me. And that changes day to day. And so I think letting go of the perception that I need balance was a huge weight lifted off my shoulder, because that actually created a lot of tension because I was judging myself and I had the negative self-talk of like, you're traveling too much, you're away from the kids too much, or you're not doing this, or you're not doing that. And that was my own self-imposed sort of negativity because I thought that I was not doing something, I was not balanced in the way that I needed to be balanced. So I think as soon as I let myself say like, it's okay not to be balanced, actually, like that was a huge win for me, just mentally, psychologically. I think that what I do is I try to be present where I need to be present and where I choose to be present, and being in control and being the person that I'm making the choice, like not allowing anyone else to tell me where my priorities need to be, but I'm allowed to make my own priorities. Like that's also been a significant shift for me. And so it changes all the time. And you bring up the PTA, and it's like perfect timing for that because tomorrow is our school's biggest fundraiser, of which I'm the chair for.
Oh my God.
And
Oh my
we've
God.
so far raised over $70,000 for literacy for our PTA. And the last 2 weeks, that's been my priority. So
Mhm.
I haven't been at work 8 hours a day, and my meetings have had to shift. And I haven't been at home in the evenings to have dinner with my family, which is something that's very sacred because I've been at school. But I've chosen to do that for these last 2 weeks because I'm committed to this fundraiser for our school. So I let myself off the hook for that. I don't have judgment. I'm not saying like, I can't believe you're missing dinner tonight. I'm saying like, look at me. Like I'm putting goodie bags together at the school and I made this. And so that's just for me. Like I don't believe in balance. When I speak to other women executives, women professionals, women who are thinking of starting businesses, that's my number one plea to them is like, please just let go of this perception that balance exists because it places way too big of a stress on our shoulders. But definitely get to a place where you can be in control of the priorities in your life, make sure that those priorities are aligned to your values and that you feel really good about it. And then things will change. If my husband is in trial and not able to be home as much as he normally is, then that means that my balance has to shift a little bit more towards picking up what he does every day, which is quite a bit. If my business is in a place where I'm needed, my mental, physical, and emotional presence is really needed, then I shift in that direction. But I'm in control of that and I have no judgment around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is fantastic advice. And we've talked about that before.
Mhm.
There's no such thing as a work-life balance. You just have to do the things that have to get done. And of course, I'm not a mom, but I always try to encourage the other mommy executives and business owners, and my partner Ann included, like, let
Mhm.
yourself off the hook. It's okay. You don't have to be here every day. It's fine. I promise things will be okay because now, home needs you more than the office. And some days that will shift and be different. But I know it
Yeah,
must
and
be tough.
it's not, well, I think it's tough for everyone, honestly. Like I think, moms and parents have a specific set of challenges, but like everybody does. We're all daughters and sisters and members of our community and pet parent, like whatever it is, like we all have our own priorities. And I don't think that being a parent is like a bigger, more important priority than someone else on my team's priority. So the way that we've built the business here is like, this is just a no judgment safe zone. Like whatever your priorities are, you need to support them. You need to let us know how we can support you in supporting them, because it could be caring for aging parents or mental health struggle, like whatever it is. Like we all have our own issues and opportunities that we're dealing with on a regular basis. And so I think that that matters. And it's so lovely to have, I'm sure for Anne, to have a colleague like you, Atricia, that's so supportive of just the immense, like the sheer quantity of hours required to be a parent. But I think that it goes for everybody.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah. Alrighty, so this is probably the hottest buzzword in the headlines right now. It terrifies me still. But AI, artificial intelligence, is all the rage. I mean, every product, even in our business that we work with, has some new AI feature to utilize to make your life more efficient or easier. So thinking about that, how do you see the future of marketing changing because of AI?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really exciting time for marketers specifically. I think we're seeing AI adoption is rapidly increasing, like at a rate that is almost difficult to comprehend. And the number of use cases that we're seeing in our business just continues to expand as well. The way that we think about it is like, with any technology, it's an essential advantage. And so thinking through like, how are you using it to your advantage? We want to be able to leverage AI so that we can do more of what we do best, which is strategy work. And so we're using AI currently to support our research efforts. We do a lot of both like stakeholder, advisor, and client insight work that fuel our strategy. And so AI has been just a great enabler with research and helping us to distill and analyze our thinking and the insights that we have into sort of how does this now fuel the strategies that we're building. It's also been a huge efficiency creator in content. So it takes time. And the work that we do for clients is you really have to manage the input with any AI, machine learning, natural language processing, whatever tool you're using. It's really about fueling it with the right input so that you can get the right outputs. And so when we do that, we've got a clearly documented strategy for all of our clients. We understand who their ideal client persona is. We have their messaging themes. Once you have that, you build upon it and you feed the tool with content and information. But once you have that done, it's really like massively increased our efficiency with content creation. It still requires a human to edit heavily and to make sure that the ultimate content is aligned with the strategy and in the right tone and voice, but it's saving us a lot of time. And then it also just helps us with data and data-driven decision making, because AI can really synthesize a lot of data. And it's both data that we directly have access to, but then also just data that exists around the web that we may not have had access to, that help us to identify, like if you think about ideal client personas, like how can we input an ideal client persona into Claude and have it help us understand what those consumer preferences are. What are some of the trends that are in front of them? I mean, it can go out and scan all of the publications that ideal client persona listens to or reads, or the podcast that they listen to, or the YouTube series that they watch. And it can synthesize like all of the consumer behaviors and trends and preferences in a way that, like, could we do that on our own? Yes, we always have, but now it's giving us just a tremendous amount of power. So I think we look at it as an enabler and an efficiency gain, and something that is going to be woven into everything that we do in ways that we probably can't even imagine right now, but that are ultimately really beneficial.
Is Claude your preferred? I know there's so many tools out there and each of them probably have their pros and cons, but is Claude the preferred AI tool that you all tend to use?
For marketing, it's Claude or Chat GPT. Most of our team got started on Chat GPT, so we've built a lot of like knowledge on Chat GPT. Claude just has some more enterprise features that work for us as an organization. But those two are the ones that we primarily use. And then another one that I pay attention to just throughout the marketing sort of sphere is Jasper. Jasper is a little bit bigger like than what we need right now for the size of our organization, but those are the three that we see most frequently.
Got it. Okay. Awesome. All right, Meg. Well, I know we could literally spend all day with you, but we all kind of have to go back to, running our businesses and serving
Yes.
clients. So the last question that we always love to ask our guests is, what does living richly mean to you?
To me, living richly means just living in alignment with myself, that my internal values and belief systems and priorities show up in my external life, so that I feel like I've got alignment between who I am and how I show up, whether that's how I show up professionally or how I show up personally. I've come to a point in my life where I think I understand what's important and what's not. And I used to care about a lot of things that I no longer care about, because to me, it's like, that's living richly. If I feel like I'm fulfilled, if I feel like I'm aligned, then I'm happy. And if I'm happy, then I'm living richly, But the moments in my life, both from my past or from recently, where I feel like I'm not living richly, if I sort of go back and I reflect on it, it's because I'm out of alignment. I'm doing something that's not aligned to my core values, or that's outside of my belief systems and worldviews, or I'm making some sacrifices for one reason or another. And like, that's where I feel like I'm not living richly anymore. So I try to just focus on the simple things, knowing who I am and living a life that's reflective of that. And that's the good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Simple, but beautiful and so powerful.
Yeah.
Thank
you for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. Where can people find you, Meg, if people are interested in learning more about Ficomm or you personally? What's the best place for people to find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is the best place to find me. So it's Meg Carpenter at Ficomm, which is Ficomm. And our website is ficompartners.com.
Yeah. And this is an unpaid endorsement, but Curo has had the pleasure of working with Meg and the team at Ficomm, who are absolutely fantastic. You guys have helped us in ways with our own marketing for our firm in ways we could have never figured out or done efficiently for ourselves. So thank you so much for that. So highly recommend the Ficomm team.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, everyone is amazing. And this podcast is a result of some of the work that we did with Ficomm. So
it makes me happy. This is a very full circle moment. Yes.
Yeah, totally full circle. So amazing. Yes, we absolutely love every single person on your team. Everybody is just like the caliber of professionalism. They're also just really fun, great people. So you've done an excellent job. Whatever challenges you got through with the people stuff, it has been worth it in the end, because you have amazing people. So
I do. I'm so fortunate. Yeah. Thank you so much. We love working with your team.
Yeah. And just an interesting tidbit, Meg and I actually met before Curo was ever working with Ficomm, just sort of randomly on a Blue Spring Partners trip. We were on horseback, and we hit it off like immediately. And then I think I said to Anne when I got back, like, oh, I hung out with her. She's like, oh my God, I'm so glad you love her. I love her.
I know. It's like when you know, like when you meet your people, you're like, these are my people. It's immediate. And that day on horseback was so fun. We were both a little bit out of our comfort zone.
Definitely scary.
But what an experience.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was amazing. All right, Meg. Well, thank you again so much for joining us today. Such a pleasure. I got some nuggets, and I know our listeners did too. So thank you again. Little housekeeping for everyone. Give us the likes, the comments. Let us know what you thought. Subscribe, because we drop episodes every Friday. And thank you again for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Until then,
live richly.